This is the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game.
Rule number one is you have to believe in yourself. You're the only one who doesn't think you belong in this appointment. The prospect has already validated your existence by scheduling time with you. Get it through your head you belong here, go in there, crush it, and close the deal.
A place where sales professionals can come to learn from other sales professionals and thought leaders that have mastered their craft.
The difference between a good salesperson and a best-in-class salesperson is only 2 minutes. By spending an extra 2 minutes on what you might think is a mundane task in the sales game, you separate yourselves from the pack, you grow your book of business, you close more deals, and you retain your accounts.
As well as their peers who are still striving for perfection to achieve their why.
I have a wife and 4 kids. Failure is not an option.
Real sales professionals, real stories, real results. Are you ready to feel the power?
Hey everybody, welcome to the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game. And today we have an awesome guest from the great state of Ohio and my birthplace.
Oh, no way. I didn't know that. Oh, there we are.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Kyle, that's great.
Yeah. Ellie Platt. Let me get the name out, and now we can talk shop. Yeah, I was actually born up in Lorain. So
okay.
I was born right on the lake. My dad at the time was an Ohio State trooper.
Wow.
And so we lived in Lorain, and then we went down. He got transferred to headquarters in Columbus, and we lived in Circleville at the time.
Nice.
And then we moved back up when he took a job as an accident investigator with U.S. Steel. We moved back up to Amherst, and so all my extended family is actually still up in Lorain, Amherst, and Elyria.
Oh, wow. So not far. So I'm actually from Youngstown, so that's where I live.
Yep.
And then my office is Warren, so I'm about 30 minutes from.
Got it.
Yeah.
I used to wear that out coming across when I lived in Morgantown. I would go visit family, and we'd come up and cut across the turnpike and drive right through all of that.
Yeah. So, wow. So you're familiar with this area, this market.
Yeah. I wouldn't say the market is much. What I'm familiar with is the fact you guys can't write workers' comp, which is a huge issue. But, the other thing that just blows my mind, anywhere outside of Florida is, and I'm talking about Florida as normal as you can make Florida, not Florida today.
Right.
I just can't believe how much volume y'all have to do to generate revenue.
Well, just our premiums
it's a whole different game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole different game.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, the premiums are lower. Also, I mean, we're in a pretty economically depressed area. So we're heart of the Rust Belt, halfway between Cleveland and Pittsburgh. I mean, it's tough. Businesses are struggling. I mean, it is tough. It's a tough market for sure.
Well, the economy's changed so drastically since I was a kid up there because, I mean, steel ran everything. And we had a big Ford plant, manufacturing cars. And, there was but Ohio was the first, was it Marysville that brought in Toyota or somebody?
Yeah,
there was a
Toyota plant. Yeah, and then GM forever had a plant in Lordstown, right by Youngstown as well.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the Japanese automakers came over and opened one up, and it sort of spawned a little bit of growth, but then it just seems like it kind of
there's some bright lights.
A little bit.
We have some good things, going on, but it's a tough area. I mean, compared, so many areas they'll struggle economically, just even over COVID, and I think we're just used to it. we're used to not having a lot.
No kidding. That actually sadly makes sense. So talk a little bit about your background. I mean, I know a little bit of surface stuff, have admired from afar on social media.
Likewise.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about, some of the stuff you do with your team that I think is pretty cool. And you definitely do a really good job with a lot of your branding and stuff. So I want to talk about that, but sort of give everybody the overview of how you got to where you're at, because it's from what I can tell, a pretty interesting journey.
Yeah, it is. So I've been in the business. I started my agency 10 years ago. I did not have an insurance background at all. So my first job out of college was in the nonprofit world. I did fundraising, marketing.
That's way harder.
Yeah. Yes, I will get to that. That's true. So I did that for 10 years, got sick and tired of working my ass off for someone else, and somebody talked to me about insurance. So Nationwide Insurance at the time was really buying out a lot of their long time, those agents that are just sitting on their renewals, bought them out. and we're recruiting agents. And so I sat down and had some coffee with somebody from Columbus, and within 5 minutes, and I knew nothing about insurance, within 5 minutes, I just was like, you know what, I'm doing this. I had a 2-year-old at home, got my license, quit my job, and bought an agency in a really small town.
What was it about that conversation that flipped the switch for you?
I think both of us have also had that conversation, so I'm interested.
Yes, I mean, I have it a lot. Anybody that is making that leap from, you have a salary and benefits, and I think it had just been, I was ready. I was really ready, and I think I saw an opportunity that made a lot of sense. And at the time, really, I don't even think I understood the insurance industry at all. But I just got that own your own business entrepreneurial bug. Like, I can do this for myself, and it's unlimited. And so I did it. I mean, it was a leap of faith. And like I said, I really did not understand insurance when I got into this. I saw the prospect of owning a business, of having something that was my own. And once I got in, and I started to, and I realized that insurance is the greatest industry on the planet, and that there's renewals and residual income. And once I realized what that was, it was my goal to really just grow through acquisitions. So I've done 10 acquisitions in 10 years. Wow. Yeah, all nationwide books of business. So so we were captive. I was captive nationwide until 2020. So, and that's really where I was introduced to people like you, David. And actually my first introduction is one of my producers was watching videos from Ryan Hanley, and that's really, I feel like, what introduced. And I started, I'm like, okay, this guy's cool, like I get this. And I felt like we started, because in the captive world, as much as I love nationwide, in the captive world, I never felt like I had found my people. And he started showing me these videos, and I'm like, okay, like there are people out there doing awesome things. And that just led me down a rabbit trail. I started going to the Big I conferences, and then I went to a session with Jason Cass, and just really met such an amazing community of people.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that the independent channel breeds your ability to be more individual, right? So I can't speak from anything but the outside looking in. But to me, from a captive standpoint, I'm always going to go back to what it was like when I was a kid going into State Farm offices, because that's who my parents did business with. And like, it was literally, you could take one agent out, remove them, and put another one in, and it was like the same person.
Oh yeah, right.
It's like the same systems, same products, same general processes. And listen, it works obviously for them, but if you're entrepreneurial, I don't think that you'll be able to find satisfaction.
You'll never be satisfied. Yeah, and I think the best thing that could have ever happened, and Nationwide initiated that transition. I mean, I feel so fortunate that happened. And, through the acquisitions, you're right. I mean, that my biggest challenge has been acquiring nationwide books of business. There are so many. One time they've grown their agency. They're probably great agents, but they were so complacent. So we were acquiring these agencies and staff that had systems and processes that were so antiquated, and they weren't used to I think being proactive. And so that's been my biggest challenge is, as we integrate every agency we've done over the years, that's been the biggest thing, is getting them to see that there's a different way, and that you can actually, they're comfortable there, but they can be excited about their job every day. And so that's what I feel like we've done with our team now, but it's been a long road.
So when you make these acquisitions, are you bringing staff with them?
Yes. So I have, I've done it both ways, and it's pretty much, we're in a smallish area. I mean, about 500,000 people. But so we bring in their legacy agencies, 25, 30 years. And so was an agent that was, pretty much never there, always golfing. That looked like it hurt.
It felt so good. Sorry.
That looked like it hurt.
I just did the mic
I didn't think it was that
up?
boring that you need to try and break your own neck.
I mean, people can see what just happened.
Oh, they will on YouTube. And if you're listening,
did it pick up the audio on that? Because that one was loud.
I think there was audio.
I'm just sitting here. I'm like, my God, my neck is killing me. Sorry.
You need to get one of those traction.
Don't mind me.
One of those traction things.
I have one. I can't find it. Where it hangs on the door, the doorknob, and I've got one of those things. Sorry.
But anyways, yeah.
Continue.
So these agencies are basically, I mean, it was, an agent that's barely there with usually a woman running the office who's just a rock star and, keeping the agency going. And so a lot of the agencies I acquired were that. And so probably early on, I started to see that a lot of these agents that were running the office were amazing. I mean, they knew more about running the agency than the owner. And so I think what I pretty much right away was very focused on empowering them. And like day one, I remember one of the first agencies that we acquired, the first thing I did is this woman, this agent, she's been in the business for 20 years. She knows more than me. And the first thing I did was, we're gonna get you business cards, and it's gonna say agent on it. You're not the girl in the office. You're not, the CSR. You're an agent. And so I think that's been a passion of mine in all the acquisitions. It's just been empowering a lot of these people working in the agency, especially these legacy businesses where, there's somebody running behind the scenes running it. And so that's worked for me. So I feel like I've created a team of these really rock star agents that had been for so long undervalued. And I think just the simple act of let's get them a business card. And for a while, everyone wanted to talk to me. I want to talk to the agent. And I would say to them,
Right.
I'm not, I'm an agent, but so are you. They can talk to you, you're their agent. And now we're at a place where nobody wants to talk to me, but
that's all right.
Yeah,
they shouldn't want to.
Oh, yeah.
And you shouldn't want them to.
That is my goal.
Like if it comes to your desk at this point, it has to be nuclear,
Oh, yeah.
right? There has to be something wrong
Absolutely.
that you're trying
Yeah.
to fix. I actually have two thoughts that have been running through my mind as I listen to you talk. I'm going to stay with the thought process we're on now, but I'm going to go back and hit the other one in a second. But, one of the things that we're very vocal about is the underappreciation of women in the industry.
Absolutely.
We have no problem with that. And everything that I just heard you describe, it sounds to me like the breeding ground for where we are today, honestly.
Right.
I mean, the old days where, you got the calendar with the picture of the male agent on or he's on the business card or whatever else. And it was all the office ladies that ran the office.
Exactly.
And to your point, they knew more about how to run the agency
Yes.
than the figurehead
Yep.
did. And they just never, in my opinion, probably were empowered to do so.
Exactly.
So there's a lot that can be, in my mind, there's a lot that can be garnered just from listening to people who have never had a voice before.
Yes.
Doesn't mean you have to do everything that they have as an idea, and every idea they have is good. But just being able to listen and have open dialogue goes so far, I would imagine, into integrating them into your culture.
Yeah, I think just giving that, giving them the confidence, kind of reminding them, you know what you're doing. You know more than anyone else. And so that's been a lot of my focus is in really nurturing our team members and helping them see that.
Well, and the thing is, from a self-confidence standpoint, I mean, I don't know if I've ever told the story on the podcast before, but I ran the Marine Marathon back in, it was the 30th anniversary, so it's been at least 15 years ago that I did it. And when I lost a ton of weight, obviously I also destroyed my knees in the process, but as soon as I was done, I got back to Florida because that was up in D.C., and one of my buddies that has been a friend for life, actually it was Brian Lovell, the guy that was on episode 2 of the Power Producers.
Was that 2? It was
episode 2. Yeah.
Right
so
after
he says to me, "Look, man, I've been inspired. You lost all this weight. I want to run a marathon, but I'm only going to do it if you'll do it with me." And I'm like,
Oh.
I checked it off. There were circumstances around that. I had committed to do it without really thinking through it originally. And I'm like, you know what? If that's what it'll take and I can help my friend, then I'm going to do that. So we trained for it and everything else. And we get about we were literally at the 13-mile mark, and he's like, "I'm done. I can't do anymore. I've got to stop." And I was like, "No, you don't understand. You're at the 13-mile mark. You're either going to go 13 miles that way or 13 miles that way. But
Right.
you're going 13 miles one way or the other, and we're not riding a van."
Yeah.
And so we were literally to the point where he had his arm on my shoulder, and I was carrying him almost to the finish line. Not horribly, but he was shot, man, so bad that the people, the golf cart picking up the cones from the race were like right behind us. Like they were killing the race course as we were finishing. So we get across the finish line, we get our medals, and this goon looks at me and he's like, you know what the difference is between my medal and the guy who finished first? And I said, what? He said, absolutely nothing.
Right.
And so I tell that story because from a matter of perspective, in a matter of public appearance, putting agent on a business card just made the playing field level, right? Yeah. From a public perception, that business card doesn't look any different from the person who's been the office lady, and I'm using air quotes for people who can't see it, versus the person whose name was on the outside. And I think that we forget that a lot of the time. You know, we create these hierarchies and we make it more complicated than what we should, when in reality, I don't know if it's to be more self-serving or to make ourselves feel better about ourselves or what the deal is, but the public doesn't know the difference. They don't know the difference. They don't care.
They really
just want to talk to somebody who's educated.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes they even think they're talking to me. That's usually what happens. But no, they don't care. And I think by those hierarchies, you miss out on the how valuable everyone in the office is. The office ladies quote, you know, and I think you miss out on them. They have a voice, they have ideas. I have gained, so my business has grown because of them. And I think by trying to be the person everyone wants to talk to, you'd miss out on that. And so we've grown because of that. And, you know, especially, you know, with women, that's just a passion for mine too, because there's challenges in general, just as a woman in the agency, owning an agency, but then there's an added layer for them as well. But yeah, so I'm proud of that. I think that's been a big part of where I am today is because of our team.
But what a simple thing, though. Just something like the business card, you know, building that goodwill and that trust and empowering them. You know, it immediately gets them to buy.
It goes to show our perception too, though, right? I mean, let's talk about just, you know, I'm probably one of the least biased people when it comes to, you know, race, gender, whatever else. Like, but think about that, man. You know, we're both sitting here saying this was such an easy thing to do, but neither one of us thought of it, right? Yeah. Like, you don't even, there's some of these things that are such minutia that even when you do think you're doing good, you miss out on things sometimes. And I mean, just sometimes we try and overcomplicate things, and we could really just keep them really, really simple, right?
And I'm sure it really helps them to buy into the culture of what you're doing versus where they're at. Because, I mean, especially if, like you said, they're legacy agencies and they've been there maybe 15, 20, 25 years and they've been doing things a certain way to, you know, because I've been part of situations where, you know, the company was bought out and new management comes in and it's never fun, you know? And that's why I'm sitting here, you know, with David at Florida Risk. But I think that you can, you know, doing something just simple like that will
it makes them
immensely help the transition and get them to.
And it is a challenge. I mean, when you do acquisitions, that it's a big, you know, even though they were nationwide books and we're on similar systems, product, but there's different cultures, different ways of doing things, and so just helping bring people in to our process is always a challenge. These women were the person running the show, so one of the biggest issues they had was just identity. You know, where do I fit now? You know, now I'm one of 10. You know, where do I fit? I'm not the person running the office. So I think finding people. I mean, it's an old school business book, but Good to Great by Jim Collins, and you know, and he talks about, you know, finding. You know, you want to find the right people on the bus, and then you want to find the right seats. And a lot of my last truly 10 years has been helping people find the right seat on the bus. You know, what's your interest, what's your passion, how does that align with our business goals and our business plan? And so I've been, you know, trying to build upon what we have. So most of the time I've kept on staff, but it's difficult because everyone has their own way of doing things. And, you know, I've always approached it with, okay, that's your way. That probably worked great. This agency over here, they did it this way, but this is our way. And you know, we're going in this direction over here. So it's hard. I mean, I've run into lots of issues, but you know, it's a challenge to do that. But for the most part, everybody's gotten on board, and we keep moving. But it is hard. It's hard when you're used to doing it a certain way.
So the other comment that I was going to make as I listened to your 10 acquisitions in 10 years thing is, and I don't want this to sound wrong by any stretch, because it's not a shot, but I'm sitting here in my mind thinking, you're buying leads.
Oh, I mean,
because these agencies have not been run right. And I'm just sitting here thinking, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
No.
You know, and obviously you've gotten better over 10 years, I'm sure, in how this process goes. But, you know, I have to believe that these investments are like doubling, tripling in value, like very, very quickly.
Yes.
Just by having a process behind rounding accounts and handling people the right way.
Absolutely. It's I mean, our main activity in our office is account reviews. I mean, so that drives everything that we do in the agency. And yes, I mean, doing the acquisitions is the best thing I could have ever done, especially because in a year I will be completely paid in full on all of them, which is a beautiful thing. In 1 year, this time next year, I'll be buying everybody dinner.
There you go.
But so I love Kelly, Agency Performance Partners, has been an awesome partner for us and a coach for me. And so we've account reviews has always been part of our process, but we've recently adopted her process the last couple of years. And it's funny how, you know, I can preach this as long as I want, but when an outside person comes in, you know, everybody's, you know, ready to adopt it even more than, but I think, there's so much opportunity within our book. So we're 80% personal lines. Nationwide was never really competitive with commercial, but one of my focus the last few years has been commercial lines and building that. But a lot of our growth has just been right within our book of business.
I have to believe.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, you get to a certain size and it just self-sustains. But we're also proactive. I mean, we're big, we reach out, big on technology, like a lot of, you know, like you as well, but technology, automation, doing as much as we can, I love, you know, Facebook. We can dump emails of our current clients into Facebook and do targeted ads to them. And we do a lot to reach out to our current book.
Those get me every time.
Yeah, right?
I have a whole closet full of stuff from Facebook targeting.
It's absurd.
I know.
So obviously the 10 acquisitions in 10 years is substantial. I'm sure you've picked up, you know, a few tidbits of knowledge across the way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what would you say has been from number 1 to number 10, you know, acquisition? What's been the biggest lesson you've learned?
So, I mean, like we've already said, just listening to your team, working with them. I think sometimes, especially I'm, you know, entrepreneurial and I have certain ideas and not being so stuck to, I think really listening to the team and the people you bring on, I think is important. Reaching out. I've learned this from Billy Williams, which I'm assuming maybe he's been on here, but, just really identifying kind of high premium clients. And so we are very proactive in reaching out to them. Because again, I mean, doing these acquisitions is all about retention. So that's been our main focus, is getting system and process in place. And that's it. It's, you know, you can't, with all the acquisition, everybody was doing something differently. And so we have been relentless with system, process, time blocking, just getting everybody on the same page. And and staying the course, you know, because it is hard when everybody's doing something a different way, just from a simple endorsement or, you know, any. So that's been a big thing, but also just I think the biggest lesson I've learned is just finding a community and a team. I mean, just from different groups like IAOA, or I'm in mastermind groups where I learned so much from what everyone else is doing. But the big thing too is doing what works for you. I think that's been, because in the last couple of years, I've just jumped in so much to the independent world, and there's so many different technologies, agency management systems, CRMs, all of the stuff that's out there.
It's overwhelming.
And I think you have to really look at where you are and what works for you and build upon that. So if anything, you know, I think any mistakes I've made have been kind of grabbing onto different technologies that I thought, made sense because somebody else who was successful was using them. But, you got to do what works for you. And just building on our strengths and what we do well. I mean, I didn't have an insurance background, and when we look at, we're mainly personal lines, we're a community-based agency, and we're building on that. I might look at David, what he's doing. That's not, maybe one day that we can focus on middle market, but that's not where we are. That's not our strength.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the whole thing. I think it's cool that everybody can have a different focus on what they're going after or whatever else. And what works here for us in the exact geography we're in and everything else. There might be some sales concepts and things that we talk about that translate, but to be able to just say, I can take what we do here and make it cookie cutter in every single place across the country would be a horrible misrepresentation. And so, that's one of the things that I deal with a lot when people come into Killing Commercial, because I have to explain to them up front, people, there's a conversion factor, right? So something that's $250,000 in premium here might be $100,000 in Ohio on that middle market account. But what you have to remain focused on is that if I have a component parts manufacturer that does $50 million in revenue, it doesn't matter where it is. The operational processes for that company are the same, regardless of where they're at in the country. So quit focusing on the insurance. The insurance, honestly, that's the funding mechanism for how we get paid at the end of the day. If you focus on that in the process, you're going to get really, really discouraged if you're looking at people. That's why so many people that I see posting in the internet groups are like, I'd love to get my Florida non-residence license. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Like, do you have any idea what it's like to have to deal with this every day? People see premiums and think it's awesome, but I bet the hourly rate is probably much lower, honestly. But if you don't focus on the premiums and you focus on the problems that these businesses have and being able to solve them, that is applicable anywhere in the country. And I think that's one of the things, that's one of the curses of the internet, is because we want to keep. By the way, epic Super Bowl commercial with I just finally put all of that together because there was so much noise during the Super Bowl where they had Rashida Jones, Leslie Jones, and Tommy Lee Jones for keeping up with the Joneses. Like, I thought I was brilliant for finally figuring out what that was when I was laying in bed, with COVID watching TV. And then I realized that, I should have figured that out the first night. I didn't put two and two together.
That was the truck commercial, right?
Yeah, I'm like, what's Joe Jonas doing in this commercial? Then I finally realized everybody's last name was Jones. So, not the sharpest knife in the drawer always.
We'll give you a break. You had COVID.
Yeah. Whatever. So, so let's talk a little bit about specific things around culture, right? So, and I'm interested in, as you've done things to empower people and build the culture in your agency, how much of the skill set from when you were in the nonprofit world transferred over to help you, help guide you in that process? Because I have a feeling very substantial.
It's completely, yes, absolutely. It completely transfers. And, that's been my focus all along. There's an old school book, Strengths Finder 2.0, and it's about really building upon your strengths, identify, and that's, I think, one of my strengths is building culture, relationships. And so, that's what I've tried to focus on more than anything. And, it definitely transfers. I mean, that was one of the reasons why back when I started the agency, that Nationwide reached out to me. It was just from relationships, the relationships that I had in our community. And so, I think it especially in the nonprofit world, a lot of what I was doing was just community networking, meeting with people. And one thing I've really tried to do with our team is not just, I think so many, especially in agencies probably our size, the agency owners, the face, they're the one that's out there. And so I've really worked hard to, again, empower our team so that they're out there, that they're in networking groups, they're doing different things, they're finding what their passion is, and I think that's been one focus I've really had. I think Ryan Hanley has said this before, maybe on your podcast, that, one of his goals is that he has people working for him that are millionaires. And I love that, because that's exactly how I feel. I want to be able to look around. I would feel good one day if I looked around and there were other agency owners in our community that used to work for me one day, and that's been my main focus, is putting people in a position where they know that they have the confidence that they can do the same thing. And it's just amazing what happens when you put people in that position, and how successful, they've really helped make our agency successful because of that. So, I mean, I think that's definitely transferred. I've had great mentors. I had a great boss back in the day that sort of took a similar approach, so I've tried to do the same thing with our team.
You're never going to lose when you invest in the people in your team. Ever.
Yeah. And you might, right? And you know what? You may. You may. I've had a couple situations where I didn't feel like, where it wasn't received in the way I wanted it to, but most of the time, but that doesn't matter. I think you do it.
But I would argue that you didn't lose. That person lost out because they didn't receive the information right.
Yeah.
You probably slept well at night knowing that you had invested in that. I mean, I go back to my early days in the grocery business, and one of the things, I mean, I'm pretty open about the fact, and there's quite a few people, honestly, I'm shocked, that listen to the podcast that used to work with me in those days. Like, this is completely irrelevant to where they're at in life now. I guess they just miss my voice. But, my first store was in a horrible neighborhood. It was economically depressed. There were many single mother families, and, I would have people come in that, it doesn't even matter that, age-wise, because it ranged anywhere from somebody who was their first job in high school to people in their 40s and 50s that were coming in. Almost every single time they had no idea how to even open a bank account. So I made a relationship with the banker across the street. And I went to the banker across the street every time somebody came in, and I helped them open a checking and a savings account for their direct deposit. I took the time to educate them about 401k and compound interest and all of that stuff. Was that in my job description? No, not if you follow the letter of the law of what's actually in your job description. But I feel like, if you take the time to do those things, you're making emotional and mental deposits into somebody's life that are going to end up paying you back at some point. And I'm not advocating that you do it with the intention of getting something in return. Right. I'm simply saying that people remember that stuff. And social has been pretty cool to see, because some of the people that were 16 years old are turning 40 now, and it's just like, holy cow, I remember when you stumbled in the first day with your pants around your knees and I sent you out the front door, go change and come back. And but some of these people are, $100,000 plus earners, and several of them are actually location or district managers in retail. And I don't take credit for where they're at. Right. I take credit for recognizing that they had that potential. You saw that, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I saw that they had the ability. It was theirs to go get it. I gave them a vessel and as much direction as I could. Mm-hmm. But I think that we fall short in that, man. I mean, and look, I get frustrated, right? I get frustrated with Kyle because, Kyle will call me and I will know that he looked at my calendar and found the one sliver of 15 minutes that I don't have anything scheduled for in that afternoon, which is exactly what he's supposed to do. And that's when I was planning on trying to scarf down my lunch. And so, I'll get irritated when I see the phone ring and I'm like, crap, and so I'll pick up the phone and obviously, answer him. But, I think it's a natural reaction for us sometimes, when we have people who truly do have questions and need us or want advice or whatever. Sometimes we get frustrated with that when we shouldn't. Yeah, right. I think that when
they're doing exactly what they should be doing. I mean...
And it shuts them down, right? Because so if I pick up the phone, like, what do you want, man? Which is actually probably how I answer it half the time.
Which definitely happens.
But it's more in a joking way. Everybody listening to this.
Well, and I remember early on, like, so I would some of my this happens all the time. Like, I'd have these great, energetic, eager, agents, and they would say, whatever you need, let me know, I'll do it for you. And I would say to them, no, wait, hang on here a second. You tell me what you need. Here are your goals. Here's where we're moving. Here are your goals. Now you tell me what you need, and I will give you the support that you need. And I think sometimes it's hard and especially, I could think maybe it depends on the area you're in, but in our area, I just don't think people get the concept of, here are your goals, go for it, and let me support you along the way. And so that's what you want. I think it's that old school mentality. The team members that are hounding me, that are on me, telling me what they need from me. Like our social or video that we do, it's actually not a favorite thing of mine to do. It's probably the last on my list. But we hired a marketing person. It was one of the best investments I've ever made. And she is on me. She's on me on Sunday night. Where's my video? And I need that. Like, I know that that's not a natural thing for me to do. So I needed someone on our team to tell me. She knows her goals. She knows how many we need to do a week. She knows what we need. And so she's on me. And I like that. Like, I appreciate that.
Well, that's what you're paying her for, right? And then I'm the type that I will pay something like David Lefevre. Oh my gosh, that he can get me going from 0 to 100, like just snapping the finger, because he's the guy that programs HubSpot for us.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm of the mindset, hey, make it do this, and I explain it. Well, he wants every intricate detail about every piece and part.
Yeah.
Then he wants me to review it once he's built it. Then he builds it and wants me to review it again before he sends it live. And it's just like, come on, man. But at the end of the day, this is why agencies struggle. I mean, in all seriousness,
that's true.
I have the mental fortitude to overcome that stuff and just say, no, I know this is what I have to do for us to get better. So it may not get done at exactly that second, because I've usually got like 8 other things that I'm working on. But I think that many of us hit that point where we just say, you know what, screw it. I'm over this. This is driving me nuts. I'm not going to spend any more time on it. And then we wonder why we're stagnant in growth or whatever else. And so again, that's one of my shortfalls is I'm so spread thin, and it's the worst that it's probably ever been right now. Thankfully, it's cleaning up. We're bringing my oldest son's coming in to take a huge amount off of my plate just on the marketing and stuff. He'll be able to handle all of the podcast, social publishing, editing of the videos, and do blog posts for us and all of that. So I'm excited about that. But again, he's learning, right? And he's the closest to me of anybody in the organization at this point. So it's easy. He's the easiest for me to lose my mind on. And, for the last 2 months, for probably 2 to 3 hours a day, every single day, he's been sitting at my desk with me. I'm teaching him how to use Premiere. I'm teaching him how to, do all of these things. And, I sat down in this process and I made him a checklist of just every single thing he needs to do just to get a podcast completely done. And when I saw what that looked like on paper as bullet point instructions, I'm like, holy crap, no wonder I don't have time, because I do it all myself. I'll get in at like 7 in the morning, and from 7 to 9, I'll do nothing except things that, honestly, I don't want this to sound wrong, but they're way below my pay grade. That's not what I should be doing. I should be leading producers and growing the organization, not sit here being Johnny Video. I mean, if I was going to do that, I'd just go get a gig on Fiverr. Didn't Laura Lopresti
teach you anything, man? That's the high priority task, dude.
I know, it is. So that's up to my high priority
I hired we call her our operations coordinator, but I hired a solely admin person, and she does all the things that would fall in my lap. She handles, and it's been one of the best marketing and that, which you don't in an agency. I think we focus so much on producers and account managers, but it's really been amazing to have somebody like that.
So you brought a marketing person in. One of the things that I think I remember seeing you post, and I think Cass actually highlighted this in Mastermind too, was some of the stuff you're doing with your client welcome kits and some of the branding things you're doing. Talk a little bit about that, because I mean that's something that I think we do a really good job of, and I always like to see the ideas that other people have. And was very impressed with what I saw. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I don't remember specifically what I saw, but I just remember looking at it and saying, "Wow, that she's doing a really good job with that."
I think it's finding people. So I like to work with people locally. I mean, I know there's so many resources online. Like I've used Fiverr and I've done all of that. But I think finding good people locally and bringing them on our team, even just in a small capacity, just even 10 hours a week, 5 hours a week, making them part of our team. And so we've done that with graphic design. We have a marketing person. She gives us about 15 hours a week, which is all we really need. And so I do like to piece things together locally, and then just using our team as much as possible. I mean, everyone has their regular jobs, but everyone has like an interest in something they'll focus on. So for instance, we have one agent in the office. She does stories every day. She'll do Instagram stories. It could just be something fun in the office, and it kind of breaks up her day. It's something fun for her to do. So we would do that. We do piece it out a lot within the agency based on people's interests and what kind of excites them every day.
I think it's important to keep that stuff local. We do the same. 100% of the stuff that we have produced. Now, it is cheating a little bit since Tervis Tumblr is local, to us, but as far as all of the T-shirts, all of the podcast stuff, the only thing I really outsource is the artwork for each episode of the podcast. I do that on Fiverr because I don't know anybody local to do that, but I've built a network just from my kids playing Little League sports. There's so many moms that are sitting in the stands. Like that's how we started with our stainless tumblers that we have decorated. And then Lindsay, who does literally everything now, I mean, basically does everything. She does T-shirts, she does monogramming, she does the polos and all of that. I guess our boxes we get, I have to order those from a box manufacturer. We don't have somebody who will do that. But
I'm a big...
There's a lot of power in keeping it local.
And just also your network. I mean, so for instance, the person that does our marketing, I met her. She's a local real estate agent. So personal lines real estate agents are important to us. And so I was watching her. She started a podcast called Homes and Hops. And so she loved breweries. And so she would focus on how breweries helped impact the local real estate market, and she would do a podcast. It was awesome. It was this amazing podcast. She was just doing it for fun, and I was like, listen, like you're doing such a good job, like why don't I'd co-host with her every once in a while, and then I said, would you be open to doing this for me? And so that's how I met her, just basically looking around your area and seeing who else is doing something awesome, and helping align with them and connect with them. I think collaboration is huge.
I'll tell you the other thing I found out from Little League sports and sitting in the bleachers is there are a lot of moms here that worked at insurance agencies that left to have kids and now want to come back when the kids start going to school.
I'd like to hire them.
So I've got a pipeline. I literally have a pipeline like 5 or 6 deep that I know are coming in they'll be ready to roll over the next probably 18 to 24 months.
That's awesome, because that's my biggest challenge. I imagine it's everybody's. I need at least 2 people right now, and it's almost impossible. We're trying to push it this week, hiring, and it's been a challenge.
I feel like everybody in every industry said that
it's everybody, which blows my mind. Like, what's happening to our economy? Like, what? It doesn't even make sense to me.
It's gross.
It doesn't. I know, like, one thing we're dealing with, a lot of the people I'm interviewing are working now for some of the large carriers, so like Progressive or Liberty Mutual, working from home in Ohio for these carriers. And my challenge has been salary. Like, I think we pay pretty well and have good benefits, but we're now competing on a national scale. And
it's ridiculous. It is really, really bad.
Yeah. And then also, how do you bring in, let's say we're going to pay that much. How do you bring them into a team with other people that aren't making that much?
Well, and then how do you equalize it when the market conditions change?
Yes, right.
And they're all of a sudden, they're not worth what you're paying them. And that's also not the going rate anymore.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem,
That's a good
I
point.
hear it literally every single day from all of my friends that their people are getting picked off left and right from Willis, Aon, Marsh, whoever, and, I'm not overly concerned about losing anybody here because we're completely flexible with work hours.
Yeah.
Everything else, my account executive that handles the majority of my book of business, when she came on board, she said, I could only work from 7 to 2:30 because of my kid's school schedule, and I can't find a job. And I'm like, okay, why is that a problem? Like, I can, what I don't want is somebody, well, here's my availability. I can work from 7 to 4 on Mondays, 2 to 6:30 and on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you just say, look, I can only work 7 to 2:30, I can plan around that, right? I can plan around that all day. How much really comes in between 2:30 and 5?
Right.
That I can't just cover if there's something that needs to happen for me, or we can't just hand that off to somebody else. But I think that, again, we're forced to think that way too.
But also just selling culture, because these people working from home for Progressive. Like, I've talked to somebody last week. She's literally sitting there she has to have a cup of water right next to her. She doesn't get bathroom breaks. She's getting one call after another. So if we can sell our culture and the team we have, the fun we have, then I'm hoping that wins out over pay, but.
So how do you handle that during COVID? How do you build the culture? Because I can tell you we're basically 100% remote at this point.
Yeah, we're back.
And I think that's difficult. I mean, we did a decent dinner at Christmas time, and I committed to trying to get out and do a dinner like that at least once a quarter. It was good just to hang out with people and their spouses and shoot the breeze and not be constantly dealing with insurance crap all the time.
Yeah.
So it was a great time, but COVID sort of prevented that. I mean, I'm interested because I'll be honest with you. I did nothing.
Yeah.
I did absolutely nothing to try and build culture. I tried to hold on with white knuckles to get through this whole thing.
Especially in the heart, when it first happened, those first few months were scary. Like, who knew, what was going to happen. So we're back in the office. So we actually had 5 office locations before COVID. And so we've since, over the last 2 years, my goal has always been to consolidate into one. So we've closed 3. So we'll still always have 2, but, we have a building right now we're renovating, but we are back in the office, and, we weren't open for a while, weren't open to any clients. But it was hard. So we operate on Teams, which probably a lot of people do. So, just even that was helpful. I mean, we did regular calls. But it was hard. I mean, those first few months were definitely hard. But once we got back in the office, we do as much as we can we do pretty regular get-togethers, and we try and do things that are fun for everybody. A lot of that I don't even drive. Like, I let them, our team, they kind of decide. Somebody recently came up with festive Fridays, and so every Friday they wear something different. So, like, I think recently was like 90s, like you had to dress 90s themed or something like that.
Nice.
So we were doing it was only going to be for a few weeks, and it got to a point where I was like, I think it looks like guys were having too much fun. but they, so we are in the office, we try and do fun things. But we're super flexible. We actually didn't change our office hours either. So we cut back hours like a lot of people over COVID. And I decided, you know what, we're not going to go back. So we're only open 9 to 4, Monday through Friday. And I'm going to keep it that way. I mean, so really everybody's work schedule is less than 40 hours a week. And we still can accomplish the same thing. We operate a lot by KPIs. So if they're still achieving their goals, if they have to stay late one day to achieve a goal, then they will. But for the most part, we work less than 40 hours. We're like 35 hours a week, everybody, which is, you would think that seems crazy, but who even came up with 40 hours a week if we're accomplishing our goals?
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I really don't care when people work as long as it's getting done. And
as long as we have coverage.
Yeah, that's never been a problem, from my standpoint. It's honestly kind of funny because it's the people that are used to working in a normal, rigid office environment that can't get their arms around
they
that,
can't.
Right? They just they can't they just
can't handle
like my account executive.
It's just programming.
She'll go nuts.
Yeah.
Kim will go absolutely nuts. To let me know I'm going to take this time off and this time off.
I'm like, I don't care.
And I'm like, I don't. It doesn't matter.
It's more of a hassle. Like tracking PTO is more of a hassle.
Correct. It really is.
Like, I just don't tell me. But
I'm with you.
Yeah, but it is.
Just get your shit done.
I love unlimited PTO concept, but that's one of those things their brains will explode. Like they can't get, I like the idea, but it's hard for our team to get it. So we do have a tracking system, but I haven't never even looked at it. Like we have, we have some software that we track our KPIs and we can track PTO time, but it's not important to me at all. So I think our team, just also giving them opportunities to, especially because we're so retention heavy and account reviews, giving them time to be out of the office. So everyone finds a networking group, whether it's BNI or a chamber event. I have everybody going out as often as, just so they can get out and meet people in the community and they're not stuck at the desk all day, which I think helps.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a question for you, and we'll probably wrap up with this
Sure.
one. But again, I pay attention to everything on social, and I know you have, based on what I can see, a really good relationship with your son.
Yeah.
And I'm interested as you are going through and building the agency, how much do you include him in, just from a information, not recruiting him to come into the industry or anything, but how much of... I just took a screenshot because I wanted to get you when you were smiling, and Kyle made the most hideous face
I was
ever.
probably like...
No, yours was fantastic, and I look over at Kyle, I'm like, I can't even
Should
post
I smile
this.
again?
Yeah.
I just look like an absolute creature.
Yeah, I'm gonna post this one while we're all laughing. That's a good one.
Okay.
So anyhow, but talk about that.
Yeah.
How do you include him in that, and what's his interest level? Does he think you're nuts? Is he interested in what you're doing?
I was going to ask you the same question about your kids. So my son's 13, so we still have some time till he's a little bit older. But I do try and include him as much as I can in the business and the owning a business aspect. So for example, when I bought a building, which was a big goal of mine, I brought him to the closing and he was there for me when we signed. And, I want him to have exposure to, this is what it looks like to own a business and the lifestyle that it could bring, the flexibility. And, so I do like for him to see that, whether it's insurance or not, I don't know, but I want him to be able to think about, what it's just owning a business and passive income and, what it, not being tied to a 9-to-5 job. I think that's something I value and I really want him to see, and that's not for everybody, but I do want him to see that that's an option in his life. But it's funny, he'll say things to me a lot like, I'm really proud of you, Mom. You work so hard. I'm a single mom. And so, I have worked really hard to be where I'm at. And it's nice, he does recognize that. But it's hard. So I've just recently gone through a lot of estate planning. Just as a single mom, there's things, you wouldn't even think about. Like if something were to happen to me, what happens to my business, our assets? How do I make sure that my son is cared for? And so I've done a lot of this recently. And so I've gone through the question of, so do I try and preserve, something were to happen to me today, do I try and preserve the business for my son for the next, 10 years until he's ready, or do, who's ever entrusted to, I have a trust and do they, maybe they just try and sell the business right away, and I don't really have family members that are, I think would know what to do. And so there's been a lot of that I've had to think through recently for him.
It's weird to think about. So it's funny because we're going in tomorrow to do the signing for ours. We just put it together over the holidays, and it's like they'll ask you questions, and you're sitting there like, what?
I never thought
who thinks about that?
I didn't think about that. Right.
I don't know. What do most people do?
Right.
Like, what's a normal?
Yes.
What's a normal thing? So it's funny that you bring that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, in our case, it's a different level of complexity with Ethan because he's never going to be able to live on his own.
Yeah.
So we have to consider, long-term care for him and what that looks like and everything else. So, I mean, I agree with you. I have never, if anything, I've pushed back for having my kids actually work at the agency.
Yeah.
I want them exposed to it. I want them to see, here's what I do when I'm gone all the time. There is actually there's stuff that's going on and all of that. But Grayson really, he pushed me. He's 19. He pushed me, and I wouldn't cave. And I don't want to say I made him, but he worked at Publix in the grocery store for 2 years.
I want that
and
for
I
my
told him,
son too.
I said, I said, you need to do that. I said, because I think everybody should. I think everybody should work restaurant, retail, groceries, something like that, so that you can learn to deal with the public at their absolute worst, whether it's co-employees, horrible management, or the clientele themselves. You learn an invaluable skill set just by working a simple job like that.
Yes, whatever it is. Yeah, I want that for my son too. And and I've had to work hard, and he's used to a lifestyle now that, I keep telling him, this doesn't, come easy. You have to work hard.
Right.
And so that's been a tough thing for me, is for him to recognize this comes from hard work. We have the life that we do. We travel, we do things because we work hard. And that's what I want him to see. And I want him to see, that I feel like anyone that works at our office is lucky, because it's an amazing environment. It's a place where people can grow and learn, and I'm proud of that. And why wouldn't I want that for my son? I want him to be exposed to the things that we do, and but I don't want him to take it for granted, and that's the tricky thing.
Well, and the tricky thing too is, if you're like me, I want my kids to have whatever they want. I want to be. I get satisfaction out of being able to make them happy.
Yeah.
At Christmas time, I don't care if I get a single gift.
Too.
My joy is from giving to other people and just knowing that I made their day the best that it possibly could. That's not cliche, people. That is the God's honest truth. Anybody who really knows me will tell you. I mean, Scott Howell has been trying to give me money or a gift for over a year for some time that I spent helping him on an account or something. I don't even remember what it was, but it's become a joke now, because he's now reached out to my wife saying, "Hey, what can I do?" And she's like, "Just don't, Scott.
Don't.
When he tells you he's happy to help, and that's where he finds his joy. He's being 100% serious when he says that." But I think it's a dangerous slope that we go down, because my kids need to associate what they have with the effort, and so even from a very early age, we will compensate them in some way. Not look, I'm not a big fan of I think there are things that you need to do because you live in the house. Keep your room clean. Keep your clothes in the laundry. Those are non-negotiables. But if you're gonna do something above and beyond for us, like empty the dishwasher and put all the dishes away, or help mom clear off the table and go do the dishes and do this, make sure that the garbage is out and the cans are drugged down,
mow the yard,
I could be a jerk and say, no, that's part of living here, but truthfully, that's more manual labor, and I want them to see, even if it's just on a smaller scale, what the reward is for putting that level of effort in. And so to that end, every single one of my kids has something they do at the agency when they come here. It's just a matter of what it is. Ethan mops. He walks the perimeter of the building looking for wasps' nests to make sure that we don't need to call the exterminator. The kid is ridiculous. He can see a wasp nest from 100 yards away.
That's a great idea.
Caroline likes to shred.
Yeah. They make that direct connection between what you're providing and the agency and their role in that. That's awesome.
And it's fun to them, so it makes them want to come over here, and that just gives them more exposure. So I think that's something that's really important. And I think, by and large, most of our peer group does a reasonable job of that, from what I can tell.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So I had a funny story. My niece, so in the summers, she'd come and work for me, and so she's a 21 now, but she started going into high school. It was the summer going into high school, and she was going to shred. So she spent all summer shredding for me. And one day she came in, she had this big old ponytail in, and she's shredding, and she leans over, and the shredder took her whole hair.
Oh no.
In the shredder.
That's the worst.
So this day, one of our
happened to you a lot, Dave?
No, it just reminds me of the story that I tell about the guy that worked
grinder?
in my meat department that got his sleeve caught in a meat cuber, and he comes up to the service desk toting the meat cuber with his mangled hand on the other side of it, because there's no way to reverse it. It's the same thing with the shredders, man.
Well, it's comparable to a 14-year-old going to high school. It was traumatizing for her that she lost her whole ponytail going into high school.
Yeah.
So she's stuck to it, and I'm taking pictures because it was so funny.
So how did you get it out? Just have to cut her hair out of it?
pull out as much as we could and then cut some out. It was traumatizing. To this day,
I'm sure.
I can't bring it up to her. It's traumatizing.
Really? Still that bad,
She's
huh?
so bothered, like she can't.
Really? That's funny. Yeah. I would think I would be laughing.
I think it's hilarious. I think it's so funny, but yeah.
Right.
That's crazy. All right. Well, listen. We've been going an hour. I want to be respectful of Ellie's time. I also have been getting messages about a renewal for one of my clients that's going south real quick after one of my underwriters told me they already had the terms, which was a less than truth.
Awesome.
So I need to go deal with that. But anyhow, listen, I really appreciate you coming on, sharing your story. I know a lot of people are going to benefit from listening to sort of what you've been through, if nothing else, realizing that, acquisitions are where it's at. I mean,
for sure.
It's definitely a cool way to grow, and I think people throw that around a lot too. I'm pretty sure that every acquisition you've done over the last 10 years is not a multi-million-dollar acquisition.
No, they've all been about $1 million. Yeah.
Right, and so I think that we get so worried about keeping up with the Joneses. What I know is you did what you could manage.
Yes,
right?
I did what I could do.
You were able to easily manage that. Yeah. You probably were stressed to a certain degree, but you're going to be debt-free from that in a year.
Yep.
It's awesome.
And all that's going to do is perpetuate more for you to be able to do with that free cash flow at that point. But if you don't try and keep up with everybody else and you stay in your own lane and you do what you can handle and you're patient enough to do that incrementally, you're going to end up probably ahead of the people who try and rush into things over the long haul. So all I can tell you is I wish you nothing but continued success.
So
it's been cool to watch you grow. I love the fact that you include your son in everything that you're doing. I watch that on social. I'm a bit of a stalker. It's very rare that I don't see things. Like people are like, I posted that 2 years ago. Yeah, I remember when you posted it 2 years ago. It's just one of my weird idiosyncrasies that I have. But cool. I pay attention for stuff like that.
Well,
I appreciate you coming on.
You've been in our team. Some of our producers follow you. You've been really inspiring to our whole team. So thank you.
Awesome. Sounds good. Let me know when you want me to come to sales meeting. I'm happy to do it.
Yes. Okay.
Cool deal. Yeah. All right. Well, listen, Kyle, sign us out, man. It's all yours.
Cool. Hey, everybody. If you like this podcast, if you could do us a solid, leave us a review, maybe a like, subscription, it would go a long way. I think we're up to, 36 now? We've been going for 2 years. So,
we're better than that, man. I mean, the thing that's crazy is we're getting like 20,000 downloads a month, and we have less than 100 reviews on iTunes. I don't even know how
it's
that
weak.
happens.
I mean, to be honest, it's weak.
But it's stronger than our buddies. Like I compare myself to my buddies' podcast, and we have the most. Oh, I look at Cass, Hanley, Bradley, and Scott on Insurance Guys, Jason and Craig on Insurance News.
People can't be bothered with the whole review thing.
Yeah, I don't get it. It's all right.
Whatever. Cool.
They probably
Thanks,
don't know
everybody.
that I pick
we'll
random people, and they probably don't know I pick random people and send them surprises. So there's that.
Well, there you go.
We got their attention. All right, cool deal, everybody. See ya. All right, all we have.
You've been listening to the Power Producers Podcast. You can follow Killing Commercial Insurance on Facebook and YouTube. And if you want to take your game to the next level, check out our book, The Extra 2 Minutes, and our website, killingcommercial.com.